In this session, I want to talk about precompositions. As you can understand from its name, precomposition is a part of composition. In the previous sessions, you got familiar with compositions and understood that composition is actually creating a new project, like other programs such Photoshop or Illustrator, whose shortcut is Ctrl-N, which is used in other Adobe programs to create a new project. So composition is for creating a new project, but pre-composition is actually like grouping several layers. As in Photoshop, we can put layers in a folder or a group. In After Effects, we can do this with pre-compositions. In Photoshop, select the desired layers and select the group option from the layer menu. The shortcut of group is Ctrl-G. The use of grouping in Photoshop is to prevent layers from becoming crowded, and also to categorize and organize layers. For example, we have put the different eyes of this mosquito in one group called right eye. We can do exactly the same thing in the After Effects program. We made this animation together in the previous sessions. In the Layers section, if you look closely, there are different types of layers and masks which make this section a little crowded. One of the usage of precomposition is that you can put the layers in a group so that the layer section is quieter. For example, we can leave the background in a separate layer and we can put the rest of these layers in a group of precomposition. For this, just select the first layer, hold Shift and select the last layer as well. There are several ways to create a precomposition. One of them, choose Precomps from the layer menu. The second method is to use a shortcut that you can press Ctrl-Shift-C. The third method is to right-click on the layers while they are selected and select Precomps. I prefer to use shortcuts because it's faster and easier. Press Ctrl-Shift-C. The Precomps window opens. Precomps actually performs the operation of grouping these layers. There are two options in this window. The first option is disabled and you will get to know its usage later. So the second option is selected by default. In the New Composition Name section, you can choose a name for your precomposition. For example, I type phone animation. By checking the Open New Composition option, after the grouping operation is done, its composition will also be open. By checking the Adjust Composition Duration option, the time of the new precomposition will be the same as the time of the original composition. For example, if the original composition is 3 seconds, this precomposition will also be 3 seconds. For now, I will not manipulate these settings, and as this option is selected, I will click on OK. This will move all these layers with their animation to a new group or composition. As you can see, all these layers were placed in a composition called phone animation, and the environment of the layers is very quiet. If you play the video, you can see that the animation plays without any problem. But where did our animation layers go? All those layers are placed in this new composition. So precomposition is a composition or layer group that is placed in the main composition. If we double click on a precomposition, we can see its sub-layers. A new tab will be created in this section. You can switch between precomposition and main composition by clicking on each tab. All the layers along with their animation are placed inside this group or precomposition. If I press U, you can also see the animations we created. If I go into the main composition and hit U, nothing happens because all the animations are moved to the precomposition. Well, as I said, one of the usage of precomposition is that to organize the layers and prevent the main composition from being too crowded. I will explain another usage of precomposition with an example. Suppose we wanted to enter this hand with all the animations from the bottom of the screen. I hit Ctrl-Z to explain this problem. If we didn't have an option called group or precomposition, we would have to select all these layers and animate each of them separately with position. In some cases, you have to move these keyframes to get the desired result, which takes time and is not necessary. Instead, you can put all these layers in a pre-composition and animate the pre-composition itself. Press Ctrl-Shift-C and name it phone. Now I animate this pre-composition. Press Alt-Shift-P to create a keyframe for position. I want this hand to move from the bottom of the screen to the top in 1 second. Move the CTI and create another keyframe in second 1. I bring the CTI to the first frame and move the hand with the mouse and take it out of the scene. I want it to exit the scene again after the mobile animation is finished. I select these two keyframes and press F9 so that the keyframe becomes easy ease. Open the graph editor and adjust its speed like this. I copied these two keyframes. I want the hand to exit the scene again after the animation is finished. Here I paste these two keyframes. Again, the hand comes from the bottom up. You just need to reverse those two keyframes. Right-click on one of the keyframes and select Time Reverse Keyframes from the Keyframe Assistant section. And the motion will be reversed. You got familiar with this option in the previous sessions. Well, now the problem is that I animated the movement of raising the hand in 1 second, but the animation of mobile itself starts before raising the hand. We need to fix this. The reason is that inside the pre-composition, the animation has started from the second 0, and we have to move the layers inside it. Double-click on pre-composition, move CTI, and go to second 1. Select the animation layers except the hand layer. Select the first layer. Hold Shift and click on the last one. Press the open bracket to move all layers to second 1. You can see that the animation starts from second 1. Now if I go back to the main composition, you can see that the hand will come up in 1 second and the animation will play. So you are familiar with the use of pre-composition. One of them is for animating layers. As you can see, we created the hand raising animation only by creating two keyframes, if it seems impossible without using pre-composition. Another usage is to organize the layers and prevent the layers from getting crowded. As you can see, all these layers were converted into two layers, background and hand animation. So let me explain other usage of pre-composition with another example. Create a new project. Make a composition with full HD size. Import a logo like the Apple logo in this way and drop it in the timeline. The logo is too big. Press S and make it smaller. Now use the Align tool to place it exactly in the middle of the page. I want to animate this logo in 1 second, so that it changes from the small to big and appears from the bottom of the screen. I create a keyframe for scale. Move the CTI and create another keyframe again at second 1. I bring CTI to the beginning and scale it to 0. We have created such an animation so far. I want this logo to appear from the bottom of the page. I move CTI and hit Alt-Shift-P to create keyframe for position. Create another keyframe in second 1. I want the logo to appear exactly in the middle of the page. So move the CTI and change position of the logo like this. You see, I created such an animation. Select these keyframes and press F9 to convert to easy ease. You can change the motion speed in Graph Editor. Like this. Suppose we have made such an animation. We can also use the fill effect to change the color of the logo. Search for the fill effect in the effects and preset panel and place it on the logo layer. You can also change the color of the logo from this section. Well, suppose we made this animated logo and work hard on it, but the client decided to change the logo. What should I do now? Do I have to recreate this animation from scratch with a new logo? The answer is no. We can use pre-composition. I select the layer and hit Ctrl-Shift-C to open the pre-composition window. As you can see, the first option is enabled. In the previous example, when we select all the layers, the first option was disabled. The first option works only on one layer, and if you select several layers, the first option is disabled. For you to understand, I will create another layer and give an animation to this layer. Now if I select these two layers together and press Ctrl-Shift-C, we can see that the first option is disabled. So the first option is activated when you select only one layer and convert it to pre-composition. So I delete this layer, and to create pre-composition, right click on this layer and select pre-composition option. I choose the first option. With this, all the keyframes remain outside of the pre-composition and only the logo will move inside the pre-composition. Choose a name for this pre-composition, for example, logo, and click OK. What happened now is that the logo was moved into a group or pre-composition, but its keyframes remained outside of the pre-composition. If I press U, you can see all the keyframes were created. You can even see that the fill effect that I gave to this logo in this section. If I go into the pre-composition, you only see the logo layer alone. Here, if I press U, nothing happens because the keyframes are outside. Now we can easily replace another logo with this logo. For example, import the Google logo. I will place it above the Apple logo and scale it a little. Press S and make it smaller and hide the bottom layer as well. Now if I go back to the main composition, instead of the Apple logo, the Google logo will be placed exactly with the same animation we made. If I press U, you can see the created animation. If you feel that the Google logo is small and needs to be made bigger, you can make it bigger inside the pre-composition. Double click on it. The size of the created pre-composition is exactly the size of the first photo, the Apple logo. 1757 and 2048. If you want to increase its size, you can use the Ctrl K. You can choose HDTV 1080 from the preset section and click OK. The size of our composition has changed. Now you can make this logo a little bigger. If you increase the size of the logo and still feel that the logo is small, we open pre-composition again and enlarge the logo as much as we want. Now if I go back to the main composition, you can see that the logo is half displayed and we only see the things that were in the pre-composition frame. To solve this problem, we need to enable this option. This option has two uses. One is for rasterizing the Illustrator files that you got familiar with it in previous sessions. And the other usage is to solve this problem that you are seeing now. I activate it. If you don't see this option, select the first option. As you can see, the entire logo is displayed. If you feel that the logo is still small, you can go into the pre-composition and make it bigger again. If I disable this option, only what we see inside the pre-composition will be displayed. But if I activate this option, the whole logo will be displayed. You can determine its size in pre-composition. So you can easily replace the Apple logo with the Google logo with the same animation. You learned about another usage of pre-composition. One thing you should know about pre-composition is that its settings can be different from the main composition. Press Ctrl K and set its duration to 35 seconds for instance. Now if we open the pre-composition, you will see that the time of this composition is 25 seconds and hasn't changed. If we play the animation in the main composition, it will be shown only up to 25 seconds and the rest of it will be black. At the end of this pre-composition layer, if you look closely, you will see a triangle, which means it is the end of the pre-composition and you can't enlarge it further. The reason is that our pre-composition is only 25 seconds long and no more than that. To make it bigger, we need to open the pre-composition and press Ctrl K to open its setting, and then make it longer. Enter 35 seconds. Now if I go back to the main composition, you can see that you can increase the pre-composition time like this. Or move CTI and press Alt close bracket to make the layer bigger. You can see that the logo is still displayed until the 25 seconds because the logo in the pre-composition is still second 25. Inside the pre-composition, the logo lists up to 25 seconds. I move the CTI to the last frame and press Alt close bracket to stretch the logo. Now if I go back to the main composition, you can see that the logo is displayed until the end of the composition. So you realize that pre-composition and main composition can have different and unique settings. You got familiar with another application of pre-compositions. Now if we wanted to make this logo smaller without using the pre-composition, you can see that the keyframe will be created and it seems impossible to do this, and that's why we use pre-composition. Inside the pre-composition, we can easily change the size of the logo, but not from outside. Even to move the logo after animating, you can't do it outside of the pre-composition because it creates unwanted keyframes that ruin the animation. But inside of the pre-composition, you can easily change the position of the logo. You can see that the position of the logo has changed. You can move it more and see the result. So another feature of pre-composition is to change the size and position of the logo, or even rotate it even after the animation is finished without creating keyframes. I hope I have been able to explain the topics of pre-composition well. In future sessions, you will learn more about pre-composition with practical examples.